What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And as some of you may know, I've been going through updating a few older lists because in a year's time a lot can change when you have so many fragrances coming in, and felt it was the right time to update my top 20 absolute favorite fragrances in my collection. So stay tuned. Quick side note, honorable mention before we get into the 20. Business over pleasure. Obviously, this is my absolute favorite fragrance in my collection. But even though I'm technically still featuring it in the video, it's not right, because I mean, it goes without saying that of course the fragrance I created with Zaharoff is going to be one of, if not my absolute favorite, which it's my favorite fragrance. It's the biggest dent of the year. I'm wearing it right now. I just shaved with my shave set and I gave myself a few sprays. I wear it all the time. I created it with Master Perfumer Claude Deer. Of course, it's my favorite fragrance. Just a quick little side note, and if you guys are interested in grabbing your bottle, we're getting there. We're almost done with the one run. Grab your bottles while you can. Link in the description below. But let's get into my 20 absolute favorites. So in no order whatsoever. I mean, absolutely not. I just kind of put them here. Starting with one I recently did a full review on. This is one of the best signature scents out there. This is Creed Viking. I think this stuff is fantastic. I know I use that word a lot, but I only use it on fragrances or categories or whatever have you when I feel it's fitting. And obviously for all 20 of these, that is going to be a fitting word for them. Very aromatic, very bright. There's a lot of citrus up top. There's some mint here. The pink pepper adds a little bit of a sweet spice, while still a lot of warm, spicy undertones here at the heart of this fragrance. It's basically a spicy barbershop fragrance, and it's one that has great longevity, but not in-your-face projection. It's very subtle projection, signature scent worthy. It's casual to formal. It can literally do it all. I love this stuff. It's my favorite Creed fragrance. It's one of the only two I've ever deemed full bottle worthy so far. There's several more that I deem full bottle worthy that I'll get to eventually, don't get me wrong. But at the moment, this was must have for me. I knew I would like it. I absolutely love this. This is a new addition from last year's video. I did not rewatch last year's video, so I know there's a few repeats, but there's a lot that has changed in this video, so stick with me. And the first one we're covering is one of my 20 favorites, which is, God, this was so hard to put together just 20. But Creed Viking, hands down, one of my 20 favorites in my collection. Next, technically my absolute favorite aside from my own creation would be INVICTUS AQUA from PACO RABANNE. So nothing's changed here, people. Oh man, I still love the way this fragrance smells. It just does it for me. It makes me happy. Nothing's ever pulled in more compliments for me that I can recall ever that I've worn over the years. It's just such a great fragrance. I've heard rumblings of discontinuation. That's sad if that's true. I mean, with the fragrances I have, I'll possibly never go through this bottle because I only wear it in the summer, and I don't wear it every week in the summer. I just got to be in the mood for it. I've always got something going on, but it's hands down my favorite. It'll always make this video. If I update it every year, you'll always see INVICTUS AQUA in here because it's still my favorite fragrance. It just does it for me. I know some people don't understand it because some people don't care for this fragrance, and that just goes to show how subjective everything is. Just because I like it does not necessarily mean you will, and vice versa. But if you're looking for something that's super fresh, watery, aquatic, and screams summer, that is driven to pull in positive attention, you might want to check out INVICTUS AQUA. Next is a very new fragrance that everybody's talking about. It's overpriced, and hey, I agree, it's very pricey, but the fragrance is just so damn good to me. I'm talking about the new DIOR SAUVAGE ELIXIR. Yes, my bottle just came in yesterday. I do have a carded sample. This stuff is just, look, if you like really spicy fragrances, you'll like this. It's got eternal, ridiculous, next day longevity. It's not overpowering projection sillage, but it's very well pronounced. It's not room filling, but it's pretty consistently strong for a very long time. This stuff is no joke. I think this is the best designer release so far this year. This is my opinion and my opinion alone. I don't know who else agrees with me, because I've seen a lot of mixed comments back and forth in the two videos that I've talked about this fragrance. My first impressions with the carded sample and my unboxing video from yesterday, or day before technically, day before yesterday at the recording of this. Some people don't care for it. That's okay. Not everybody's gonna like it, but the overall consensus seems to be it's a hit for most. They've been selling bottles like crazy. From what I've seen on social media platforms, there's been a lot of love surrounding this fragrance, and I'm right there with them. I think it's great. It's got the performance, it's got some uniqueness to it, but still has the heart of what Sauvage is in its DNA. It's in the background. Parfum was my favorite, but I think this has surpassed it. It's just so good. It could have been a standalone. It didn't technically have to go in the Sauvage line, but for what it is, you won't know until you try it. Get out and sample it, because I think this is a wonderful release for 2021, is Sauvage Elixir. Speaking of Dior, we've got Dior Homme Parfum. No secret here, I've deemed this many times as one of the best fragrances ever created. Oh, it is a masterpiece. Iris, leather, sandalwood. Oh, so good. Beast, loud. I never do more than 4 sprays with this fragrance. 4 sprays last me all day. I smell myself heavily all day. It's great. It's a little bit more formal than a t-shirt for sure. I've never worn it with a t-shirt, and I probably never will. At minimum, something like a polo shirt like I'm wearing, at minimum, because this stuff is elegant. This stuff is sexy. It's a little bad boy-esque type of smell, because it's got a slight animalic nature. The way the leather's done with this little touch of supposedly oud, but I don't really get a lot of oud here. It's more some slightly animalic leather. It's beautiful. This is more leather first than iris first with the Dior Homme line. It's my favorite of the line, even though I really, really love the original because it's so well balanced. This is a designer fragrance masterpiece. I love this stuff. It's not easy to get these days. I'm so glad I have 2 bottles. You have no idea. I'll probably never go through them, but I'll never have to worry about not having it. So I got a sealed bottle backup as well. Only wear this one in the colder weather because it is something very powerful. So it's very in your face. That's why I don't do more than 4 sprays. But this is another one that will always be in the update of this, because I think it's top 5 all-time fragrance is Dior Homme Parfum. Next is the newest release from Happyland Studio, which is Shameless. I have been wearing this one pretty much every week since I've gotten it. I love the way it smells. Somebody in the comments the other day brought up that it's kind of like Orange Aventus in the opening. In the heart, it's like Orange Bleu de Chanel, and in the dry down, it's something Sauvage. I forgot what he said dealing with Sauvage, but it is kind of an amalgamation of all of those, because the ambergris does come off a little ambroxany. It's very blue fragrance in its heart and dry down, while mimics Aventus just a slight amount up top, being orange and bergamot dominant up top, more so than or more so black currant. Really, it might be the bitter fruitiness that I get, but you definitely get orange that stands out up top. So I get where people are coming from with that, but it's a very blue fragrance at its core. It performs really well for me. It's not too in your face with projection. This is another one that's a solid projector, but it's not too loud, and it goes all day on my skin. It does. It's every bit of 10 hours on my skin. I've worn it several times now. It's one I've really been enjoying. It's definitely become my favorite Happyland fragrance, more so than Paisley Sky and El Gudo. I had somebody ask me the other day, and I wasn't ready to answer that yet. I might have even said no at the time, but now that I've really spent some time with it and given it some thought, I think this is my favorite from Happyland. For sure. It's the one that I keep reaching for. Clearly it's one of your favorites if you keep reaching for it. And that is Happyland Studio Shameless. No secret with this one. Abercrombie and Fitch, First Instinct together. This gets worn pretty regularly. If nothing else, it gets worn out the shower. I love this stuff. I've got several bottles of it. I've recommended it to you guys a ton of times. They're still showing up at the rack stores. It's still a great buy for a young man or somebody just looking for something fresh that is apt to getting compliments in the style of Invictus Aqua. I've said it so many times. It's like a broken record for those of you that have heard me talk about it. YSLY, little touch of it with the original First Instinct and some Invictus Aqua. Like I said, I sound like a broken record saying it, but it's still one of my favorite fragrances in my collection. I genuinely love the hell out of this fragrance. It's one of the most synthetic fragrances I own, but it's also clearly one of my 20 favorites in my, you know, I'm in the realm of 800 fragrances at this point, counting clones. That's absurd. It's an absurd number, I understand. It makes it hard to go through bottles, really does. But I like variety. So, and one of my favorite fragrances, for sure, is Abercrombie and Fitch First Instinct together. While one of my absolute favorite lines, I like every fragrance in the line. My favorite, hands down, from the SPICEBOMB line is Night Vision Eau de Parfum. No secret here as well. I'm a fan of the Extreme being the best. I get that. Because a lot of people are going to pick the Extreme as best of the line. And I'm cool with that. I'm not going to argue that. I get it. Because before this came out, I was right there with you guys. And it's all personal preference. I think this is the best of the line. And I really like the new release Infrared. I've gotten several wearings out of it so far this year. Even to dinner in the summer a few times. I think it's great for summer dates. I'm telling you, try it for that if you have it. It works well because you're going to be indoors most of the time anyway. But with this one, it's so potent. It's creamy. It's a spicy, creamy fragrance. Because of the nutty notes and the pistachio, they really add this nice, well-rounded, creamy nature to it without it being a sandalwood creaminess. Because the sandalwood creaminess is a little bit drier. This still has kind of that moistness kind of smell. It's really hard to describe just how good this fragrance is. And it's super powerful. It is a beast mode fragrance. It's crazy long-lasting and very in your face. But it's not obtrusive for being in your face. I don't find it to get annoying or cloying in any way, shape, or form. And I haven't had anybody complain about it when I've worn it either. One that is kind of the must of, at the least a must try from the line. Doesn't fit the line exactly, but there are spices here to keep it named SPICEBOMB. Doesn't smell exactly like the original, but I think it fits the line pretty well, and it's definitely my favorite. One of my favorites in my collection is SPICEBOMB Night Vision EDP. Now, while this little indie house makes a lot of really good originals, you know, they keep reformulating this particular line though, and it's a different scent every time. I kind of dig that they're going that route. I do really like the newest version, but my favorite, hands down, is still the second rendition of Summer Vibes from Authenticity Perfumes. It's still my favorite, guys. And look, I've had people tell me it smells like a bathroom cleaner and all that other stuff. Sorry that it smells like that to you guys. That's why I urge sample. You know, this is one of those brands you can just buy a little sample, a little decant, instead of committing to a bottle. But luckily, the bottles aren't that expensive. I believe this is going away if there's even any stock left, because the third rendition is out now, which smells like a bowl of fresh cut fruit, whereas this is super, super soapy aromatic, crazy fresh, lime, tangerine, a little bit of sweet orange going for it. It's got this herbal cannabis note as it starts to dry down with some sandalwood to add some creaminess and a woody nature to it. It's super long lasting. It's very loud for the first 2 hours for me. It's still one of my favorites in my collection. It's still my favorite from the house. I do really like Barbershop from Authenticity, and I do like the other two renditions of Summer Vibes. The original Authenticity is really good. Love Silver Lux. Once we start getting into cooler weather, I'll be wearing Silver Lux a bit more. But if I got to just pick one from the house, it's definitely this one is the standout for me. I love Summer Vibes, the green label, the second rendition. Though the third rendition is really good, this still narrowly edges it out. It's one of my 20 favorites in my collection, is Summer Vibes. This is going to be no surprise to you guys. Any of you that have been watching me for more than just a few videos, you expect this to be in here. Salvatore, Ferragamo, AQUA, ESSENZIALE, Blue. So the fragrance most synonymous with the channel TLTG Reviews, and for good reason. I've promoted this just a tiny bit more than Abercrombie and Fitch First Instinct together. These are the two cheaper fragrances that I have recommended to you guys the absolute most on this channel. So of course they were going to be on here. This one performs really well for me. 8 to 9 hour range. Every time I wear it, even in the heat, I get about 8 hours on my skin. I do have a backup bottle of it as well. Prices have gone up, but you can get 50 mLs like this. They show up at the rack stores for $16.99. They have been popping up sporadically throughout this year so far for that. 30 some odd dollars when they pop up at Fragrance Net for a 100 milliliter bottle. So that's still very affordable and very well worth it for this fragrance. This is much more than a $30 fragrance in my opinion. I love it. It's versatile. It's a little bit more well-rounded than say a Dylan Blue, for example, because it's not quite as aquatic and fresh. It's a little bit more dense and powdery, a little bit more sweet. It wears a little bit heavier. I think this one dresses up a little bit more, but still has the versatility to be a t-shirt fragrance in the summer if you want it to be. I don't really wear it a lot during the summer, but the other 3 seasons, it's an easy reach for me. This can be just a signature scent, that one fragrance, if you're interested. It's my favorite blue fragrance, and this is another one that'll always be in this video no matter how many times I redo it every year. Salvatore Ferragamo Aqua Essentiale Blue. It's always going to be one of my 20 favorites. Possibly my favorite pickup of the year. It's close. It's close. This is one of the 3, I think. It's not a new release, so it can't go on one of my 3 favorite releases. That's reserved for 2 other fragrances that are in this video. The third one yet to be named, but Nishane Ani. Oh man, this is my favorite vanilla fragrance that I've ever smelled, ever. Oh man. It's this boozy vanilla smell, and there's no boozy note. I really think it's just the way the benzoin works in this one. It's delectable, it's sexy, it's seductive. It's not in your face, but it's very present at the same time, especially in that first hour and a half or so. And then it never really becomes too close to the skin for me. It leaves a really nice trail. My wife loves when I wear this one. This is a lovely fragrance. I'm so glad I went for a 100 milliliter bottle instead of a 50. I have a 50 of Fan Your Flames and a 50 of Hasavat, which both wonderful fragrances. Could have made this cut, but I had to stop at 20. But from Nishane, this is, oh man, I've never had a vanilla fragrance speak to me more than this. And I've got a lot of vanilla fragrances. I've got a lot of niche vanilla dominant fragrances that are spectacular. I've got a bunch of them. And I didn't want to just, I could fill this list with niche vanillas that are awesome. I really could. This is my favorite, hands down. Get yourself a sample and try this one. This is another one that is absolutely must-try territory if you like vanilla fragrances at all. Yes, it's very expensive. That's why I say try before you buy, but I think you're going to love it. Most people will love it. This is a stunner. This is, if I ever did 10 out of 10 fragrances, this would be a 10. I don't give 10s, so it's a 9.5. A 9.5 for me is a 10, and this is a 9.5. Now, I just saw, speaking of 10 out of 10 fragrances, I just saw Justin revamp his 10 out of 10 niche fragrances, and he mentioned how his bottle, the juice changed color, and the scent changed. Well, for Triumph of Bacchus from Argos, for me, the same thing happened. Look how dark that is. If you were to reference my winter and fall videos or my individual review I did on this fragrance, it is not that dark in those videos. It has changed. It's gotten a little bit richer. The reason I'm spraying at that angle, I don't want to just coat my desk in fragrances over and over. It's gotten fresher and richer. And the color is just, it's like this almost burnt orange color now, when it was like a bourbon color with a slight orange hue prior. So it has matured more. And it's aging like a fine wine. It really is. This is my favorite tobacco fragrance ever. Does give red tobacco vibes, but so much cleaner, fresher, and much more pure of a smell. It's pricey, but you can get carded samples. There's always a link with 10% off, with the 10% off code in all of my video descriptions for Argos. This is the one from them. All their fragrances are really good. Baccio Immortale, beautiful. But Triumph of Bacchus. Whew. It's my stepdaughter's favorite fragrance, my 30 ml bottle. They're smaller bottles. She took that last time she came visit. She went ahead and claimed it for herself, and she loves it. It's wonderful. I think she's almost out of that bottle. You don't need many sprays of this. It's still very powerful, super long lasting, not a good hot weather fragrance, but in the cooler months, I'm telling you, this boozy tobacco, the rum absolute used in here, this peach and apple that's up top that has this bright, crisp, fruity freshness, such a good fragrance. I've stayed on one fragrance long enough, but man, just know I love Triumph of Bacchus, and you should get a sample and try it. Next, my favorite from the Y line is YSL YEDT. Just recently finally got a bottle of the EDP. I have Live, I have Eau Fraiche. The only one I don't have is Le Parfum, which I have sampled. I just love how fresh this one is. The aldehydes really brighten the opening. I do get above average performance on this one. This was one of the most featured in my weekly rotations over the summer. I wore this pretty heavily for like the first 6 or 7 weeks that I got it. I was wearing it almost every week, which, if you're familiar with my weekly rotations, to see something pretty regularly is odd. I'm really digging the fragrance at the time if you see it show up in multiple weekly rotation videos in a short amount of time. That's been the case with YEDT. I think the entire line is fantastic and not too redundant to have them all, because they all offer something a little bit different from one another. But this is just my favorite. I know I'm late to the game on it, but it's just so good. I could put the whole Y line right here, to be honest with you. They could all go right here, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just grab my absolute favorite, which is no secret as well. I rave about the EDT because I love the EDT. Definitely one of my 20 favorite fragrances is YEDT. Now normally L'Homme would go here, but Prada L'Homme Low has taken the place of the original Prada L'Homme as my favorite Prada L'Homme. You know, I've been fighting it. I've been fighting calling this one my favorite for a long time now. It's the one I wear. When I want to wear Prada L'Homme, I grab Prada L'Homme Low. Now in the cooler months, I grab Intense, but spring, summer, fall, I don't really reach for Prada L'Homme. As much as I love the way it smells, I reach for this one more. It's just a little bit fresher, a little bit brighter, still soapy and powdery and all the wonderful things that Prada L'Homme is. It's not as spicy as the original. It's just a little bit brighter. You take away some of that pepper, you add some ginger, adds that bright, crisp aspect. This is, I think, the best of the line in my opinion. You know, it's my favorite Prada fragrance. It's my favorite Prada L'Homme. It's the Prada fragrance I wear the most, more so than Prada Luna Rosa Carbon or any of its other flankers, more than Prada Amber Pour Homme, any of them. When I'm in the mood for soapy or fresh iris, aside from my own fragrance, this is the first fragrance that comes to mind. It's one of my 20 favorites. No more fighting and denying it. Prada L'Homme is not my favorite in the line. Prada L'Homme Low is. Now this was actually my scent of the day 2 days ago, or yesterday actually. It's ROJA Parfums Oceania. So I had no idea when I first got this just how much I was going to enjoy this. You know, we're going to talk about, actually we'll just talk about them, now I'll talk about it after. Burlington 1819, Scandal Parfum Cologne, Danger Parfum Cologne. You know, deemed as my favorites. I wear this more than all of them. I go back to this pretty regularly. This summer, since I've gotten this bottle, it's been in the rotation about as much as YSL YEDT has. As far as niche fragrances, this is the niche fragrance I've reached for the most this summer. That says a lot to me. I don't know how much that says to you, but that says a lot to me. It's just something about it. It's so aquatic, light blue fresh, watery, without any of the notes that would dictate it being watery fresh. It's got iris, it's got violet, it's got a sea of citrus fruits, it's got some woods. It's typical ROJA Parfum stuff where it's an amalgamation of all kinds of notes. And it's a soapy, fresh floral iris. It's not an overly powdery iris. The violet doesn't have that petroleum type of feel to it. It's not a Fahrenheit type of violet. Everything's just fresh. and so well done and so balanced. And it's weird the way it smells. It smells the way it looks, not the way the note breakdown shows you. You do get some of the nuances when you look at the notes and say, okay, that makes sense. I get a little bit of this, I get a little bit of that. But overall, it's got this aquatic feel without an aquatic note breakdown. And I dig that about it. It's got sneaky performance. It goes all day on my skin. It's never too loud and in my face, but it always pops up and lets me know it's still there hours and hours into the wear. Never gotten a compliment for it. It's definitely one I'm wearing for myself, but it's hands down one of my favorite pickups of the summer. And one of my 20 favorite fragrances in my collection is Oceania. So what I was going to say was Burlington 1819 from ROJA Parfums. You know, this was my favorite ROJA Parfums fragrance until I got Oceania. Oceania. I don't know exactly the correct way to pronounce it because it looks like it could go either way. But Burlington 1819, this was my scent of the day today. Before I took my shower, it's no longer on my skin now. There's something spectacular, special, unique about this. This is not as easygoing as this, okay? This has more layers to peel back. This is a much more complex fresh fragrance. This has this bright citrus up top, this warm rum. There's all these woods. There's this deep muskiness when it hours into the dry down. There's so much character and so much life to Burlington 1819 that it was my favorite. But because I wear this so much, it's got to be my favorite. But these are my top two, hands down. That's why I kind of put them together, because I knew I'd be going back and forth while I'm talking about them. Burlington 1819, it's special. Look, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's super expensive. Get a decant and try it. It's so unique and special, though. It really is. It's another one just like this. It lasts all day on my skin. It's not too in your face. Never gotten a compliment from it, but I'll be damn, I love wearing this fragrance. I look forward to wearing this fragrance whenever I decide, hey, I want to wear that at some point this week. I get giddy and excited about it because I love the way it smells that much. I love the development and the nuances on my skin. Just a masterpiece. Another one that's a masterpiece in my opinion is ROJA Parfums Burlington 1819. This year I've been wearing Profumo a bit more, especially this summer. Acqua di Gio Profumo. So traditionally I wear Absolute more in the summer. Historically, I guess would be the better word. But this year I've wanted to spend a little bit more time with this again because it's been kind of on the back burner, and I still hold my opinion to this being the best of the line. I've seen emails from Armani through a L'Oreal rep that I'm friends with that this is being discontinued. Doesn't make sense to me either. I don't get it. It's great. It's got to be the most popular one. I would think this is the most popular one in the line. Could be wrong. But supposedly it's being discontinued. You know, if your bottle's running low, get a bottle. If you're worried about Essenza happening to this one, which probably will, get a backup. I will at some point. It's not a rush out and do it this second kind of thing. There's still bottles for sale at all kinds of places for decent prices for what it is for the line. But it's a beast. It's the most matured grown man Acqua di Gio in my opinion because it's darker. It's more refined. The incense and the patchouli really changed this fragrance in my opinion. I still think it's the king of the mountain. Even though I love the entire line. I do. I like all the flankers. The flankers are the flankers. And until further notice, they haven't disappointed me with the release. And it doesn't look like they're trying too hard to disappoint me. They seem to go pretty safe with their flankers in this line. It's definitely one of my favorite designer lines. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Acqua di Gio Profumo is my favorite in the line because it's the best in the line. Mancera Cedrat Boissé. One of the most versatile fragrances money can buy. And you can get these for a really good price from most discounters. Depending on where you find them, anywhere from $65 to $80-ish dollars. Anywhere in that realm is a good price for this fragrance. It doesn't have to be get it for the absolute lowest dollar. You find it anywhere in that range, absolute value for your money. Solid performer, compliment getter, versatile, high quality fragrance. Not the highest quality niche fragrance out there, but always my default answer when somebody asks me for the best niche fragrance to start with. I think this is one of the safest buys in niche perfumery. Money for what you get, the value for your dollar is definitely there. It will do the same job as an Aventus. Gives off a similar vibe while not smelling like Aventus. It smells like a basket of fruits. Picture a wicker basket full of different fruits. You get that fruity smell, you get that woody wicker smell, kind of what you get here for a few hours. It does change a bit more woody in the dry down, but it's a great fragrance. It's one of my favorites. It's a go-to that, honestly, if I had to trim this collection down drastically, this would make the cut. All of these would make the cut clearly. But as far as versatile fragrances that can do everything, this is one of my favorites in my collection. I have a lot of do-it-all versatile signature scent type of fragrances. I have a lot of those. I like that kind of stuff. But if I had to get rid of a bunch of them, this would make the cut. Even if I had to just keep like 2 or 3 do-it-alls, this and this would be in that, because I firmly believe this is one of the best fragrances on the market and has been for many years. My opinion, some of you are going to share that opinion, some of you will not. Totally fine, because this is all my personal taste, and this is absolutely one of my 20 favorite fragrances in my collection. Sticking with the house, I got to have Wave Musk. Wave Musk is just special to me. It's the other niche fragrance that's super fresh that I look for in the spring and summer months. Because it's just so, it's grassy green. You guys have heard me say grassy green so many times. The saltiness here is smooth. It's not rough around the edges. It's not a synthetic saltiness. There's still a C notes aquatic nature on top of that. And it's not overly salty. I love how well blended this fragrance is. It's light and airy, but has staying power and has stopping power. What do I mean by stopping power? I mean this fragrance has the ability to stop somebody in their tracks and make them want to ask you, what are you wearing that smells great? I have had that happen. When I worked at Toyota in San Antonio, that happened twice in one wearing of this fragrance, actually. Was actually the first time I wore this fragrance, if I remember correctly. It was when I was testing for the full review that I did back at the beginning of 2020. It's not the easiest fragrance to find these days. If you can find it for around 80 bucks and you're interested in it, you've been looking for it, that's a great price. Grab it. I want to say I paid around 75 or 80 bucks beginning of 2020. I love this stuff. I'm so glad to have it. I don't see myself ever running through all 4 ounces of it. It'll take a lot of effort to go through it because I have so many fragrances, but it's definitely one of my 20 favorites, hands down. This was a no-brainer grab for me when I was putting together the list for this video, and it's one that if you spend a little time with, I think you'll enjoy as well, is Mancera Wave Musk. Next is one of my newest Mason Francis Kirkjohn fragrances. I only have 2, but it's my newest one. This is Aqua Celestia Forte. I don't know if it's focusing or not because I got a lot of light going on right here. But my wife loves wearing this one. I love wearing this one. Everybody I've had smell this in a smell and rate video loves the way this fragrance smells. This is one of the most worth the money, expensive, fresh fragrances out there in my opinion. It's so green and fresh. The lime, the petitgrain, it's well blended. It performs really well. It's very unisex. It's super easy to like and wear. Super easy to like and wear. Signature scent worthy from a fresh fragrance standpoint. This will be great in the winter even. This smells great. It's got the power to handle its business in the winter, but screams spring, summer, early fall. More a 3-season fragrance really, but a damn good one. If you're in a warmer climate, year-round scent. Expensive year-round scent. Oh man, it smells expensive. It's very well put together. It works with a t-shirt, but smells like it really wants you to wear an Oxford at the same time. It smells like money for a freshie, for lack of a better term. It smells very well put together. It smells luxurious. I love this stuff. It was another blind buy. I picked this one up from Vimba Fragrances. I grabbed a tester when they had the testers. There's always links for Vimba Fragrances in my video as well. Recently changed the coupon code actually. It's no longer $5 off your order when you use my link. It's 10% off now so the discount got better. Forgot to tell you guys about that. That happened this week. But I digress. This was such a good move for me because it suits my taste so well. I just think it's stunning. I did a full review on it earlier in the summer. Check this one out if you haven't. Get yourself a sample. Underrated in my opinion. And one of my 20 favorites is Aqua Celestia Forte. Now, I don't care if you want to call it bias, you can. Zaharoff Signature Rosé has actually eclipsed Signature Pour Homme as my favorite Zaharoff fragrance. Because you got to take the Z Creators collection out of this. You got to look at the long-term fragrances, in my opinion, for what's going to be the tops, you know, when you're making your top picks. And I love Signature Pour Homme. I do. It's my favorite fragrance to wear with a suit. It really is. But I think this is such a masterfully done masculine rose fragrance. It is my favorite release of the year. What I was talking about earlier, these are two of what I would consider the best releases of 2021. This has been my favorite niche release so far, and this is my favorite designer release so far. I don't have a third to make it a 3 best yet. We still have a few more months before I make my final. This is the 3 best releases in my opinion. I'm going to wait till maybe November, December, see what else is going to come out and do that. But where I stand right now, Sauvage Elixir and Zaharoff Signature Rosé are the 2 top releases. Now, this is my opinion. Not everybody's going to share that opinion. I know Justin agrees with me on this one. We've had that conversation multiple times, and I know he says it in his videos as well. Shout out to you, Justin. But get out and try this one. Sample it. The travel set you can get from Zaharoff Rosé is one of the options for when you're picking your 3 fragrances. You can get samples. There's so many ways to try this. Even if you're not a huge fan of rose, you might still end up loving this one because it's a rose incense. It's multiple types of rose. There's some sweetness here. There's a little bit of warm wood oud. It's just beautiful. Incense dominant rose. Oh, so good, and definitely one of my 20 favorites. Well, I know this was a bit of a longer video, but we covered 20 fragrances. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, because I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. What are some of your favorites? If you had to rattle off 20 favorites, because I know there's a lot of you that are watching this that have some pretty big collections, and you could pick 20 favorites for sure. Or even if you just want to pick 5. What's some of your favorite fragrances in your collection currently? Has it changed over the last year like mine has? Some of these are newcomers because some of these are pickups from this year, and some of these I've had for several years that aren't going anywhere with being some of my absolute favorites. This was a difficult list to make because there's so many great fragrances in my collection. There's so many great fragrances out there I don't even have yet. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of my favorites, you give them a spray now, I'm pretty confident you'll thank me later. Have a good one, guys.